So let's take a moment to discuss what happens when a failure occurs in connected mode and we are in standalone mode. What kind of backup scenarios can we have here? So first off, let me grab an arrow. So if authentication is done centrally on WAN failure, the AP authenticates new clients with a locally defined radius server right here, locally defined radius server. So this would be here. Now remember, we talked about in previous lessons here that you could set up a secondary radius server. We dived into that really deeply in the last slide there. So make sure you understand once this fails in the environment, we have a failure right here. We need to have the ability to move here. And we can do this by defining a secondary or backup radius server. As a backup wide area, excuse me, let me get rid of that. As a backup on the wide area network failure, AP authenticates new clients to the locally defined radius server on the AP list. That's just what I just described. When we have a failure right here, what happens is we have a secondary backup radius server in our site. Now, many of you might not have that ability, so it's something that you're going to have to plan out whether you're going to go with some type of a local radius server or not as a backup. Now, existing locally switched connected clients, they're going to stay connected. And again, they're going to stay connected as long as there isn't a security request. If there is a security request and we do not have a backup radius server, those clients will lose their connection to their APs. But if we do have a backup radius server configured and there is a security or a least timeout, those clients will be able to maintain connectivity. Overall, if nothing happens, if those clients are still there and we have that central radius knockout, they will stay on there until a security change has been acquired or the lease is timed out, like we said. Centrally switched clients, however, anything that's centrally switched, so when we're using that DTLS tunnel or the CapWAP tunnel to get traffic all the way back up into the central site, so we have a CapWAP tunnel here. If we have that set up in this environment and we're centrally switched, meaning all traffic is dropped off at that centralized wireless LAN controller, those are going to be disconnected. There's nothing we can do. These will be disassociated at that point because our DTLS tunnel no longer exists, right? It is fallen off the map. So there's no way to do it. New clients will authenticate locally only. Now, there's a priority list to how we will authenticate. And if we have some type of local authentication set up, either through a backup local radius server or something on the AP itself, that's what we'd use, all right? But make sure you're aware that these have to be, they're going to authenticate locally and they can connect as long as what? As long as the wireless LAN they're attempting to connect to is what? Switched centrally or locally? Switched locally. If they are switched centrally and that CapWAP tunnel's down, they're not going anywhere. So it has to be switched locally. Again, you have to understand this scenario. If anything happens in your environment, you have to be able to see what's going on or understand what's going on.